Good evening. This is a public broadcast announcement. Do not adjust your YouTubes. First came the wondrous cigarette, then the automacar. Now comes the latest revolutionary invention in the modern world. Good evening, friendly viewer, and welcome to First Outpost, your one-stop shop for slightly pretentious popular culture musics and mediocre production values. If you like what you see here today, why not consider subscribing and ringing that stupid little bell before you tuck little Timmy in for the night into his asbestos-lined crib with a lovely cigarette. Thank you all for watching.
A few years ago, the concept of a modern, complex, critically acclaimed game made by a single developer would have seemed like, at best, a rarity, if not a complete impossibility. Elements like graphical fidelity, gameplay mechanics, narrative and production value have all evolved to new levels of complexity over the last decade, making the concept of being solely responsible for all of them often feel like too large a task for one single person to bear. However, the rise of middleware and open source engines, coupled with some amazing newly emerged talent, has now made this such a regular occurrence that it somehow almost feels like it's on the verge of no longer impressing us as gamers. Axiom Verge, Stardew Valley, Undertale, Cave Story, Iconoclasts, Braid, Bright Memory, and these are just a few examples of what a single developer is capable of, and all of these games are celebrated critically and commercially just as much as larger productions. Often, I think it's because an ever-increasing number of examples is starting to erode just how impressive a feat these games really are. Games are extremely complex and difficult to make, and it's actually a small miracle that even the best and most celebrated examples of the medium hold together as well as they do. So, when one is made by a single person, or even a small group of people, it's really hard to stress just how impressive that is. But what's the flip side of this coin? Well, I can tell you from experience that there is definitely such a thing in game development as too many cooks. Iterations, ideas, changes, and a lack of clarity can all coalesce to derail a vision, or worse, never create one in the first place. The strength of such a small development team is the communication and focus of that singular vision. It's not that a game idea shouldn't evolve and change, that is an intrinsic part of the process, but there still needs to be an anchor, a singular vision that all decisions can be factored against. When there's only one of you, or maybe even only a few of you, this is such an easier thing to communicate and keep a grasp on. Don't get me wrong, such an advantage undoubtedly often feels like a small prize when compared to the amount of money and resources seen in larger scale development. But the fact is, no amount of those things do a good game make. I mean, look how many large scale AAA or indie games have lost their way or failed right out of the gate. On June 29th, a new entry in this ever-expanding subgenre of games development was released. Made by a single ex-animator turned all-round developer named Jonas Mankey, Omno marks the first release from his newly formed studio, an outfit named Studio Inky Fox. Happening across it as a new release on Gamepass, I played through Omno in one 4-hour sitting, getting the 100% completion and hitting all achievements without stopping once. But within only minutes of playing, I was shocked I'd never heard of this game once, over its 5-year development. I then had a quick look on the YouTubes and the rest of the internet, and found that it was getting very little coverage, all things considered. I then thought, man, someone with a fledgling YouTube channel should really make a video about this game. If only there was a talented, handsome, and underappreciated content creator and filmmaker out there whose channel would surely blow up any day now, providing those watching remember to like and subscribe. What? I don't mean me. I just meant a general someone, just a YouTuber, just no one specific or anything. Jeez. Set against the backdrop of various unique and interesting biomes, Omno follows a nameless and voiceless protagonist as they seek long-lost answers about their surroundings and the ancient civilization that once called it home. While the story itself is somewhat obfuscated at first and is only drip-fed to the player through short text entries and creature info collected as you play, the concise yet intriguing writing keeps these elements balanced perfectly. Feeling in many ways akin to the likes of games like Journey, Omno never out and out gives you an exposition dump, instead focusing on a balance of providing the player enough to simultaneously connect with and muse over in its 4-hour runtime. While I don't want to spoil anything here, it also has one of my favourite endings out of the plethora of smaller and more introspective experiences that I've played, and it's one that will stick with me for a long time after I've uninstalled the game from my hard drive. Now, while 4 hours might seem brief, the lower price tag and day-in-day release on Gamepass should mediate any worries about the length for many out there. More than that though, this is actually the perfect length for the type of experience this game is aiming to create. There's no padding or pointless exposition here, just great world building, intriguing ideas, and a wonderful tale being spun. In short, the pace, length, and manner of narrative execution are all top-notch, and while there'll be some out there who like their story a little more explained, and their structure a little more epic in scale, Omno instead aims for something different, and completely delivers. The other thing that Omno nails without question is its presentation. With its basic yet enrapturing art style, amazing lighting, and stellar animations, few games are able to create such an atmosphere so quickly. In fact, it's incredible just how much I began to care about these characters and creatures, considering that they are such basic designs and none of them even speak. But by the end, I was a little too attached to some of them, to be honest. Oh my god, is he okay? Is he okay? No. Not after all we've been through together. No. Oh, thank God. Also, while this is pretty much a solo project, it should be noted that the music for Omno was in fact created by a second member of the development team named Benedict Nichols, who has really knocked it out of the park here. While not a score comprising singular memorable tracks, the music here feels completely and utterly connected to the game and its world, sinking the player into new depths of immersion right from the opening moments. Gameplay-wise, Omno begins simple, and then slowly layers on its mechanics as the player progresses through its world. At first, pretty much all you can do is jump and run around, but after some exploration and progression, other abilities soon become available, including a dash, surfing, a teleport, and others. They all feel great, and while the jump can be a little floaty in places, relying on an analog mechanic where holding down the button means the jump will last longer, there are very few other complaints that can be levelled at the movement and moment-to-moment gameplay here. In terms of structure, things are kept pretty simple. You arrive in a new area, explore, solve puzzles, and collect items that are placed throughout, some of which are needed to progress, and others which provide more lore and information about the world. There's no time limit for how long you can spend in each area, and for my fellow completionists out there, you are also able to check how close you are to finishing the current area before you move on, as well as check what missing collectibles might be close by. There's no threat to the player and no fail state beyond environmental issues such as falling off a ledge or drowning. If this happens, the player will respawn straight away and loses absolutely no progress. There are no enemies, no health bars, and no combat of any kind. Essentially, what all of this means is that this is pretty much a stress-free experience that is built to create just enough challenge to keep you feeling like you're progressing and accomplishing things as you play. Even the puzzles and platforming sections, while clever and featuring a slight difficulty curve, never reach a point where you'll be stuck for more than a minute or two. However, none of this is a bad thing. While it won't be to everyone's tastes, all this was clearly the intention. It's a game built for immersion, introspection, and incremental progression, not one built for challenge or succeeding over adversity. All of this is reflected further in the game's slowly escalating levels of scale in its environments and design, which both ramp up beautifully as new abilities are unlocked. After you get the surf ability, you're able to travel faster, and the next area you come to is larger with more hills, enabling you to surf up and down them. After you get the teleport ability, which allows you to move great distances, providing there's a teleport pad for you to aim at, the following area increases in size yet again, allowing you to zip across it with ease and solve larger scale puzzles. All of this is deftly handled and carried off with great levels of subtlety, all of which culminate in an experience that flows as effortlessly as our protagonist surfing down a sand dune. Regarding bugs and replay value, I did find a few issues in my playthrough, which I unfortunately couldn't get footage of here, but they included getting stuck in an animation, which meant I couldn't jump or perform any actions to progress, and certain switches not being reset properly after falling off a ledge and respawning. While these might sound serious, I only experienced them maybe 3 or 4 times in my entire playthrough, and they were all fixed by exiting to main menu and reloading my checkpoint, which, thanks to great loading times, wasn't really much of a bother at all. Other than these few little problems though, I would say that Omno feels extremely polished, and certainly of a higher standard of stability than many indie games out there. Once complete, the players are able to skip to any specific chapter to knock out any remaining achievements they might have missed. But that's about it. There's no New Game Plus, and no other modes or unlockables beyond the collectibles gathered throughout the story. It's a shame, but it again feels like the intention here, and much like other similar games out there, it feels built as a singular journey to be replayed occasionally, rather than one built with a long tail in mind. While it's not the longest experience and holds very little challenge, Omno is nonetheless one of the most wonderful experiences I've had with a game in a while, and served as a great palate cleanser of sorts to play between longer and more challenging entries in my ever-expanding back catalogue. While it undoubtedly won't click with everyone, it's still a wonderful and thoughtful experience, teeming with creativity and atmosphere. But more than all of that, it's yet another reminder that a game's central vision is its most important element. Not its budget, not the names of those involved, and not the size of the development team. If you have Gamepass, or just fancy a 4-hour, relaxing and thoughtful experience, then I strongly recommend Omno.
This is a public broadcast. Do not adjust your YouTubes. Hey all you movers and shakers out there. I think I know what you're thinking. You're thinking I want more. I want better production value. I want a Discord, a Patreon, and lovely merchandise for the family. Well, we're here to tell you that your dreams can come true. For the low price of subbing, sharing, and liking or disliking, you can expand First Outpost and make it even more amazing. Plus, our wonderful creator won't starve to death. So why not sub today and enjoy slightly pretentious content straight out of your internet sooner than you think? Thank you. And remember, as always, stay safe out there. Public broadcast ends.